This episode of the Flush Podcast is brought to you by Walton's Sound Gear, Aluma Trailers, Onyx Hunt, and by Nutrisource Pet Foods. My guest today is John Zeman. John is a dog training guru that spends his free time working with dogs, their owners, to help them become the best bird hunters possible. He'll give us a glimpse into his mind and the mind of dogs to help you train during the off season. Welcome to another episode of the Flush Podcast. I'm Travis Frank. I am your host, as always, and Brandon Morton, even though he is our producer, he's nowhere to be found right now, slacking on the job, doing something, who knows what. But sitting straight across from me is a very accomplished dog trainer, and I'm very excited to have you here today, John. I appreciate you coming into our office. You're the reason that my dog right now is so excited, because I think she smells all of your dogs on you. Would you say that's accurate?
That could very well be.
Yeah,
could very well be.
John Zeman, or do you pronounce it Zeman?
Zeman. Z-E-M-N.
Okay. Amazingly, we have worked a stone's throw from each other for how many years now?
Oh, we've been over there for 22.
And we've been in our space here for over 10. Yeah. And it's just a couple days ago when we looked at each other's email signatures and realized that our offices are literally across the street from each other. So thank you for coming over to ours today and taking some time. Bob St. Pierre from Pheasants Forever, Bob and I got to spend a few hours together last week. And one thing that we both love to do is in the springtime, we have kind of our annual meeting, kind of going over last season, you know, where things are at for the TV show, and because we partner together on our television, and we do it out on the lake. We go fishing every year right after opening day, and we talk about what's coming up. And Daisy, you need to relax, girl. Yeah, she's all wound up. She saw something outside too. I don't know what it was, but my goodness. Anyway, Bob St. Pierre says that you have the best grouse hunting dogs of anybody he has ever seen. He is so complimentary of you and your dogs and your training abilities. He's talked about you for years, John. When we get together and we go hunt, you're the first person that comes up almost all the time because of everything that he's learned from you and how incredible your dogs are. He aspires to have that in his, and that's not the only person that I've heard that from. What I have heard from our listeners over the last few months as I've had different dog trainers on, they just are interested, they're fascinated by the knowledge that people like you have. So I'm grateful that you took some time today. I know you've got a busy schedule, and I know that you also invest time not only into your dogs, into other people's dogs. And I know that because you include me on a weekly email that you send out to your buddies.
One of these days we'll get you there.
I want to come up so badly, so badly. But I have a really young family, and there's a lot going on. And then all of a sudden hunting season is here, and where you train is just a little bit of a haul for me because we're on opposite sides of the Twin Cities here. Right. But I appreciate you continuing to send me the invitation. What does your weekly training regimen look like?
First of all, thank you, Travis. It's an honor and a pleasure to sit down with you and talk to you. It really is. I listen to every one of your episodes and enjoy the podcast. I really do.
That means the world to me. I appreciate you saying that.
But as far as it's a group of friends that have gotten together. It all started, I think, with Mr. Bob St. Pierre, and I had invited him before to come out and, we just run dogs. And before we know it, he had a couple of other PF employees and then a couple of their friends and friends of theirs. And I think we're up to 20 different people on this email thread where I'll send out a notice on Tuesday and say, hey, we're training tomorrow night. And that's, and we keep it pretty casual, but everybody's in a different place with their dogs and what they're trying to accomplish or what they want out of their dogs. And it's all about, just helping other people get as much enjoyment as I've gotten out of my dogs and helping them reach their goals for what they want to try to accomplish and develop their dogs into.
Let's try to do that today for listeners that aren't on that email list and so fortunate to be able to go up and see firsthand. A few months ago, I had George Lyle on, and we went in depth as much as we could descriptively, explaining things without seeing it. And that still has been one of the most commented on, most feedback I got from our listeners. They're fascinated, as I am, to understand what's going on in that dog's brain. Sure. What are they thinking? How do we get them where we want to get them? And I know you know how to get them there. So I think if we can have a similar discussion today, and now that we're in the middle of summer, and as we look ahead, we're not far away from another hunting season.
Oh no,
and it'll be here soon. And if we want the best from our dogs, we probably need to invest some time in them and whatever our capacity is. Before we dig into the nitty gritty of it, though, let's go back in time a little bit and understand your background and how you got to where you are today. First of all, how many dogs do you have, and have you always had dogs?
I've always had dogs. I've got 4 all German short hairs.
Okay.
I got my first German short hair when I was 15 years old, which was 40 some years ago. Young kid out of went through the want ads in the paper and found a litter, $150, I think it was. And,
wow.
and, that dog and I spent every opportunity in the field, and it was just, it just grew into a fascination with dogs that has lasted a lifetime. It really has.
That's so cool. I sometimes wonder at what point is a great point to get a dog for a young kid. I look at my kids and my oldest son in particular just has a bond with Daisy, who you're scratching her chin right now. They have this bond. I mean, all my kids do, but I see something, the way he wants her near him. Well, they snuggle up at night. She sleeps in the bunk bed together. And I just feel like, I didn't have a dog as a kid. I just wasn't able to have one, their family situation. And I want my kids to have it if they want that. And looking back, you said 15. Do you feel like that was a good age for you to get
I think it was. You're old enough to take on the responsibility because there is a fair amount of responsibility there. And, I hadn't quite gotten my driver's license yet, but I was just around the corner, and to be able to drive on my own and go out to the field and work dogs. And, I think that's probably about as best age as you could get, to take on that responsibility. So,
did you have space? You said go out to the fields. Did you have land available, or did you go to public land?
At that time, I grew up or went to high school in Plymouth, Minnesota.
Okay.
And so this was 1978. And at that time, that area was undeveloped. There was pheasants, there was birds galore out there, and I could go out virtually out the back door and get my dog on birds, and that's what I did. So and that dog taught me, I mean, more than I taught her, or every bird dog guy will say, birds will make a bird dog, and experience will make a bird dog. The more experience on, especially wild birds, you can accomplish so much, with that. And that's what my first dog was. It was just a lot of experience. That dog had more experience than any other dog I've ever had since, because it was a one-on-one thing, And it was daily. And year round, it was every opportunity we had. We went to the field.
You didn't have kids at that time. You didn't have a company you were running.
Exactly.
You had the ability to just fully immerse yourself into everything that dog needed.
Right.
And that's not something most of us have. Let's be honest. Most people listening right now, they're driving to work right now or home from work, and they've got to pick up the kids and take them to t-ball or soccer or something like that. And I get it. We all are trying to do our best with the time we have. But if you have that ability like you had there to really spend that time together with your dog, there's no substitute for that.
So that pup happened to be out of what was to become a national field champion, multiple national field champion. At the time when I bought the pup, he was a no-name, basically, but in the early 80s, dog's name was Amortal's Boss Ranger, and solid liver short hair that was amateur trained and amateur handled by a good friend of mine, Gary Nearing. Gary became what I call my mentor. Everybody, so many people, it makes all the difference to have somebody else that has been there and done it, that is willing to help, show you some things. And Gary was that to me. Showed me a few things, introduced me to the world of horseback field trial, and I look back to him as being a key element to getting me started. And so yeah, he ran all over the country with Ranger when he started to really excel in the all age field trial circuit, and made a name for himself. And after that, he was used quite a bit as a stud.
How old were you when this was going on? I mean, if you got him when you were 15.
I was 15 in 78. I believe it was 1982, 83 when he won some back-to-back national championships with Ranger. So, yeah, I was 18 years old. So,
wow.
And yeah.
So you just saw an ad in the newspaper. You go to pick up. Was it a puppy at that?
It was a 7-week-old puppy.
No idea what you got yourself into.
No. And I mean, she was a great hunting dog. I attempted to train her and field trial on a casual basis with the Minnesota Short Hair Club at that time, held fun trials, and I enjoyed doing that. But it wasn't until later in 2005 that I began competing, and still on a casual basis locally. We were able to hold horseback field trials, in Rogers, Minnesota, which is only 20 minutes from my place. That's where the bulk of the horseback field trials took place in the state of Minnesota. And since then, we've lost those grounds, and we don't have grounds within the state of Minnesota. We really like to have them, but so I haven't trialed as much.
Can I ask why did you lose those grounds?
Development and change of management. This is part of the Three Rivers Park Reserve.
Oh, sure.
They were heavy into prairie restoration, and at that time, the new management said, it just doesn't fit with a bunch of horses, traveling across their blue stem prairie. Mm-hmm. And it's just development.
It's tough when you have something special and you lose it. I mean, you mentioned pheasants out your back door. I grew up with that. Right. And I've taken my kids through the neighborhoods and tried to explain to them what this looked like. Because that prairie, those trees, those hills, the streams that I grew up in my backyard, if I had a pup, oh my goodness, we would have had the exact same experience as you. But now there's 1,500 homes there. And the hills are now flat, and there's hills in places there weren't, and the stream runs in a different place. And I just try to explain to them, I shot deer in that tree. You know,
All right.
or sometimes
yeah.
I could still see an old rotten board
there.
that's still
It's
there.
still
It
there.
was so great. I remember the development went up, and I drove through it one day, and one of the trees they didn't chop down had one of my boards going through the
Really?
crotch of it, and
Oh,
that was
yeah.
one of my deer stands. I was
Yeah.
wondering how long would they leave that up, and it made it like 15 years.
Right.
Anyway, all right. Sorry, I get on these random tangents, but let's get back to so you got into field trialing, and how long or how many years have you been doing that now?
Well, like I say, I had gotten another special dog that in the mid 2000s that I had gone back to Gary and said, Gary, do we have any of that breeding left over? Is there somebody that still has what we had, back in the mid 80s? And he said, as a matter of fact, I just bred son to Ranger at that time, so that was as close as I could get, and that dog was my dog Essergreif's Lucky, and that dog. At that time I had the knowledge to be able to train a little bit better, and went to my first field trial with him, and they handed me a blue ribbon and a derby stake and another one in the amateur gun dog stake, and judges were telling me, or asking me, somebody help you train that dog, because I was still young and they could tell I was new to it, and I said, no, I did that by myself. And you start getting pats on the back and people hand you blue ribbons, that tends to be a real motivator, to getting people hooked on the whole game of competing in field trials.
Where did you get it from? Where did you get the knowledge from? Was it from?
It was over time. I had several dogs before that, and Gary was a big help to me, showing me what there's several ways of getting, or different ways of getting to that point, where you've got a dog that can perform and excel in field trials. That he showed me, I believe, the right way to do it, and with little pressure, you got to have a dog that enjoys what they're doing, and every time that you put pressure on a dog in order to train them or put something into them, they say you take a little bit out. That pressure, removes a certain degree of style and motivation. And so there's ways of accomplishing it without having to be heavy-handed. And that's how we trained.
That's how you learned.
Yeah.
Was there a training method that, because I've talked on many of these shows about the Huntsmith silent command training system that George Lyle has taught me, and I kind of, I believed him because I saw his dogs. I hunted with his dogs enough to say, that's a dog. That's a hunting dog that I want to try to achieve, I guess. Did you have, Gary took you under his wing. Did you hunt with him enough to say, what he's telling me, I believe, because I can see it? Yeah,
he showed me and was always there to encourage and offer advice and everything. But the first thing he did, when I showed up with that, I met him at a field trial. We met with this young puppy and a young kid, and he handed me a book. The book was Best Way to Train Your Gun Dog. It's the Delmar Smith method.
Okay.
And written by Bill Tarrant. That was my Bible, that particular book. And that is the Smith method.
You still have the book?
I still have the book.
How often do you go back and read it?
It's right here.
You can memorize
There's
it?
times where I can literally quote out of that book, and I haven't read it in years.
What are some of those
just
quotes
keeps
that
coming
stick
back
with you? What can you? There's got to be a handful of things that you go back to again and again.
Oh yeah. Delmar, I don't know if you've ever met him, but he's got a lot of different sayings, and they're in that book, and they keep coming back to me. He starts by, everything I know, a horse learned me, and that's true. Horses and dogs are two very special animals as far as, they're just amazing. Their abilities and how there's a relationship developed between, them and their owners, their handlers. And anyhow, but I'm trying to think of some of the other,
they may come up.
Yeah.
They may come up as we kind of
Right.
dig into what would you say as we're moving forward now, over the 40 years that you've been training dogs, you've obviously absorbed a lot. You've learned a lot. The knowledge that you have is now something that you can use, and you do use to help teach other people. So that's kind of what I want to dig into. Now, do you feel like you've changed that training style at all based on what you read from Delmar Smith?
I'm constantly changing, and I'm still learning. It is something that I don't think anybody can ever really master. Because every dog is an individual. Mm-hmm. Every dog has its own little things, and that's where it comes to reading and understanding that particular dog and what that dog's needs are, and how to accomplish where you're trying to get to. And so there's several different methods. It seems like most trainers, myself included, take bits and pieces of everybody else's methods, and you develop your own and what has worked for you. And with experience, you create an arsenal of knowledge, to be able to read a dog and understand, okay, now I think I know what the next step is, with this dog. If you get stuck and you're trying to figure out, okay, with everything that you do, a lot of times you create issues that, okay, we'll fix that later, we'll deal with that later, and one of the other quotes in the book comes to me, every problem, can be created by birds, but it can be fixed by birds also.
Aluma Trailers, they've got you covered. Their trailers are built by a hardworking team in Bancroft, Iowa. They have models for nearly any and every hauling need, from ATV and UTV trailers to utility, snowmobile, motorcycle, car trailers, and even fully enclosed trailers like mine. Trust me when I say Aluma Trailers tow gear like a dream, and they are 100% maintenance free. Plus, they come with an industry-best 5-year warranty. Visit alumakln.com to find a trailer that fits your needs. For everything that gets you outdoors, Aluma Trailers will help you get there.
Hey, hunters and shooters, whether you're in the field, at the range, or on the factory floor, hearing is the key to your success and safety, and you need to protect it. The all-new Phantom from Sound Gear is here to help. Phantom delivers benefits no other product can. Dynamic digital noise protection for your ears. Seamless compression automatically suppresses noises at dangerous levels. Stream calls, music, or other audio wirelessly from your phone. One overnight charge keeps you powered all day long. And Phantom is custom molded to your ear and is sweat and waterproof, so it's comfortable all day. Sound Gear is American-owned and operated and a proud sponsor of Pheasants Forever. Go to soundgear.com and see how Phantom or any of the other Sound Gear products can change your life by protecting your hearing. That's soundgear.com.
Nutrisource Pet Foods just launched a new product that can give our active hunting dogs a big boost when they need it most. It's called Kombucha. Nutrisource Kombucha, inspired of course by kombucha, is a savory, meaty bone broth topper that's packed with activated postbiotics from a fermentation product that thrives in the gut to promote a healthy gut ecosystem for digestion support. That's a mouthful. But what it means for us bird dog owners is that we now have a healthy topper to pour over our dog's food if they're ever stressed or won't eat while on a long hunting trip. Kombucha is offered in 3 flavors: turkey, beef, and chicken, and comes in a 12-ounce pouch. Nutrisource high-performance dog foods provide exceptional healthy nutrition for active dogs of every breed, just like my dog Daisy. Now they have a topper that gives our 4-legged hunters another edge when they need it the most. Check out their full lineup of dog foods at NutrisourcePetFoods.com. So let's just sidetrack for a split second, because we're staring at this dog right now, and she has been relaxed all day. She's been curled up on her little sleeping bed in my office. And when you walked into our office here, we did a quick little tour, and Scott Franzen said, "Hey, Daisy looks like she wants to go outside. Do you mind if I take her?" And I always take her out. He took her out and went outside, and he said, "Wow, she got," what did he say? She got
weird or something.
Yeah, weirded out or something. And right now, look at her. She has been pacing in this room that we're in. What's going on in her mind right now, in your opinion? What do you think is happening?
Dogs have the ability that we don't fully understand sometimes, but they can sense things and that we just don't perceive, and that's.
She knows you're here, and she knows that you know a lot.
She's acting like, let's go.
She knows. She smelled you. You walked in.
Right.
She knew this is a guy that.
Chances are she smells birds on me. She smells other dogs on me. It wouldn't surprise me a bit. But, that she's thinking, let's go. Where's the birds?
She saw the cowboy boots. She knows that things are supposed to happen right now, and that's why she's so excited. Oh my gosh, I love a dog that just, like, her drive. I've had a lot of dog trainers say, if you don't want that dog, I'll take her in a second, because her drive is so strong. And as you can tell, I mean, I agree. I would say she smelt birds on you, and she smelt your dogs, and that got her excited. I don't know for sure. I'm learning so much all the time, John, that I like asking these kind of questions. When you meet somebody's dog, you'd probably, Bob spends a lot of time with you, and he says you're probably one of the nicest human beings that anybody will ever meet. And that's a heck of a compliment. And I've known you briefly through our interactions with Pheasants Forever and our conversations, and they've all been just wonderful. So I know you would never see somebody's dog and say anything bad about them, but I know that you know too much about other people's dogs and about dogs. So you probably could look at one and say, that one doesn't know enough discipline. That one has too much freedom. That one, but you would never actually say that.
No, that's hard it's hard to be that blunt. And I'm not that type of person, but sure, you look at the dog and you envision, potential there. And there's times when you see, breeding, where I see raw potential there, and there's other times where I say, no, okay, that this dog does lack a few things that, but
what are those things that they lack? Is it drive?
Yeah, you can call it drive. There's some dogs that just come out of the whelping box and they're looking for birds. They're just, it's just in them. And other ones that, it takes a bit longer to develop that. And, ones that lack confidence, are apprehensive, it's their surroundings sometimes where you can tell, this dog just hasn't had the opportunity, And I encourage people to, you take that dog wherever you go and get them into as many different situations as you can. It makes a more grounded, dog to be able to, when you get them in new situations.
You mean socializing?
Socializing, and that makes a big difference. But, I like to get dogs introduced to birds at an early age.
What's your age? What do you recommend, or what have you learned? Is it
I've put birds in front of 5-week-old puppies in the whelping box, and a quail, and let them just
a live one?
Get acquainted. Yep.
Yeah.
It's all reading the pup and see what they're ready for. But we'll start them with a quail or a lock wing or clip wing pigeon, and we get that fire lit, and let them conquer the bird. They have to. The first time that pup encounters a bird, they're a little bit apprehensive at that age, especially. But even dogs that have never seen a bird and they're already 8 to 12 months old, you still get that same reaction at times.
What is the reaction that you're looking for? What do you want to see?
Yeah, I want to see, curiosity at first, and then, you see the instincts kick in, and, and they're chasing that bird down, and, that's the one time we'll let them chase birds down and get them in their mouth. And, as far as, chasing birds is when they're young puppies, we'll put graduate up to a clipped wing pigeon and toss that. That dog chases it down. They'll pick it up, let them carry it around, and now the fire's been lit. And from then on, we're popping birds and letting them chase out of the launchers.
And this is retrievers and flushing breeds, right?
Pointers primarily is what I'm working with.
Okay.
As far as the retrievers, well, you want those dogs to understand that they can catch a bird. Every bird is catchable, and they'll go after and go in for the flush. With the pointers, eventually, we'll first build that confidence with them that the bird is not something to be scared of. It's something that they've are completely comfortable with running that bird down. With young puppies, you got to develop that confidence. Once they have it, now that bird is the toughest thing to chase down. They're real flighty in their mind, and what we end up doing is putting birds in launchers, and maybe the first time they catch scent because they recognize that scent, they turn, and as soon as they turn, we pop the bird, and the bird flies off. They chase it. The next time they encounter that scent, the first thing they do is knowing that bird's going to go. As soon as they take another step, they'll lock up on point. We'll let them stand there, and as soon as they take the first step to go in on the bird, we pop the bird. And pretty soon, before you know it, you got a 12-week-old pup that's standing 50 feet off of a pigeon in a launcher, and he's not moving because he knows if he takes another step, the bird's going to go and the game's over. The dog wants to keep the bird on the ground as long as possible, knowing
instinctively, right?
Instinctively, yes, they do.
Interesting.
What
happens when that dog thinks its job as a pointing breed, when that dog thinks its job is to catch that bird?
Well, that's where you'll get into some trouble with so many people. The first thing they don't have a coop full of homers.
Yep.
They know they need to get their dog on some birds and get them introduced. Well, I got a source where I can buy some quail, or I can take them to the game farm and maybe put them on some chucker or some quail that maybe don't fly all that well, and the dog is allowed to get in and get really close and run those birds down and catch them. You can dig yourself a little bit of a hole that it's hard to get out of, without additional training.
So let's dig ourselves out of that hole then, because I know that this is a thing that happens pretty regularly.
And I'll encourage when I see that, I said, okay, you got two options. One, go find yourself some wild birds, and that's why we we train in the spring or in the off season as much as we can. You got to stay away from the nesting season, but if you can get on wild birds, that will do the same thing as what we're trying to accomplish with these pigeons out of launchers. Meaning, the dog will never catch them, and they can learn so much by where and how to find birds, but without having wild birds, such as right now we're in the nesting season. We'll place pigeons in launchers in typical spots, on objectives. We call objectives either an edge or an island or some point or something like that we want the dog to know that it's a potential spot to find a bird. They'll run to those objectives. Anyhow, so we make them tough to get pointed. Make those pigeons in those launchers just as skittish as any late season sharptail on the prairie.
Place with a purpose is what you're saying.
They're placed with a purpose, but everybody wants to see their dog point. They want to see that. And if you're slow on the release with the launcher, you allow the dog to move in once they've recognized the scent, and they call it roading in on the bird or creeping. They'll know what they can get by with. But we launched. You got to be quick on the trigger with the launcher, and I think that makes all the difference to make them tougher to get pointed. And so we launch the bird when they're well off of it, and it doesn't take very long before that dog's standing 50 feet back, knowing that he can't get any closer because the bird's going to go. And it makes all the difference. It might take a few repetitions if the dog has already developed a habit of, thinking that they can catch the bird, if they've had that opportunity. So
do you believe that a dog learns in 3s and 7s?
Yeah, I do.
Do you run reps of 3 and reps of 7, or how do you run them?
Yeah, not necessarily intentionally, but if the dog's doing what you want, I don't overdo it. So 3 times is usually enough.
Yeah, if you have a good run and you want to.
Right.
I've been under the mindset that time afterwards, the dog is thinking about what did I just do and why, and so you give that dog time to process everything. So if you're doing a rep of 3, then you're moving on to a different dog, setting up the birds again. Is that how you run it?
Yeah, generally. Like last night when we were training, we had 3 birds out there, 3 launchers, and we're just running dogs. But I've heard that said before, the 3 and 7. There's something about that dogs learn well. But I think it's short sessions, make all the difference. Give the dog something to think about. Try to end on a good note, but don't overdo it. Meaning, if the dog's doing it right and everything and doing what you're looking for, stop there and make them always quit with them wanting more. So.
And this is for, your dogs are, what are the ages of your dogs?
My youngest is 5 and my oldest is 13.
Okay. And you're still running them?
I'm still running them.
You're still training? Yeah.
Most of them, they're pretty well finished, all of them. But I enjoy getting out in the field and it's what they love to do. It's like, if they haven't been run, I almost feel a little sense of guilt. Like, let's give them what they want. And, I'm constantly conditioning them to keep them in shape. It makes all the difference in the dogs, how they behave. And I always say, a tired dog is generally a good dog.
A happy dog.
A happy dog is right. They have to have a job.
Yep.
You gotta keep them keep them working, and it's a year-round thing. Mm-hmm. So,
is there a time of the season where you say, you know what, we're going to take a little bit of a break? Would that be during the heat of the summer, or do you think that's an important time to spend training?
Training, the heat of the summer, yeah, it gets a little bit challenging. Early mornings are great, but work can get in the way with that. Mm-hmm. Or, finding places where you can get them wet on a regular basis, that makes a big difference. You can get a lot of stuff done evenings. There's really not many times where I'll just call it, and take a break from it. But it's mainly just keeping them in condition, and there's a number of ways of doing it, whether it's swimming in the heat of the summer, or my dogs will pull dog sled in the wintertime, or
really
they pull a fat tire bike, down the trails. There's been times when I'll have them rode just off the horse where they're just pulling in a harness, and they'll let you know it if you haven't done it in a few days. They begin to let you know that it's time to go. Is right.
Yeah, it's interesting. The short hair breeds that you have are instinctively driven, and we had a guest a couple weeks ago. You can go back and listen to his episode if you haven't already. But he takes in rescue dogs, finds new bird dogs or second chance bird dogs, he calls it. And a lot of the dogs that he gets are from people that see a cute puppy and they don't understand the genetics inside that dog that says, I need to get out and go.
Right.
And so like this morning, Daisy and I took her to the lake, threw the ball, she swam for a while, and she still is all worked up over there, John. My goodness, Daisy, relax. But I'm always trying to give her that. Right. Let her get that out. And anytime I see her just sprawled out, I'm happy because I know she's happy too.
You can make them tired.
Yes. So when people bring, how about this? How do you get to the point where you're working with birds? I know everybody wants to get to the birds, and I talk about the foundation. Yes. Do we want to dig into the foundation a little bit?
Absolutely.
In building a dog and knowing when they're ready for this exercise that you just explained, talking launchers. Everyone wants pigeons, they want quail, they want to get them out there. Birds. But I think I've learned enough over the years to say pump the brakes and make sure that dog has the foundation to get to that point.
Right.
How do you get there?
Well, there's foundation that, as in the Smith method, each dog has to go with you, come to you, and stand still. And those are the three keys. And a check cord or the wonder lead or command lead, they call it, is a very valuable tool, in creating that foundation or developing that. The go with you, especially with these bigger running dogs, is so much important because, a well-bred pointer will have it in them to have some sort of independence and boldness to be able to cover real estate, to run. And you want to develop that at an early age when they still have some dependence on you as a puppy, to stay in contact with you. And we call it putting a handle on them also, to be able to turn that dog. The check cord is where that's done. Check cording them through a field and turning them, on a regular basis using that check cord on the neck, the cue on the neck, to turn them. And you can use whatever you want, whether it's, yo or hey, or, and then the dog's name, or even some people will use a whistle for that, but,
to turn them.
Yep. And with the check cord, the cue is, just the cord on the neck.
Tap, tap.
Tap, tap. Eventually, when they're out there 200-300 yards and you holler, yo, yo, and it might be a tap on the collar. is a nick on the collar, and they'll already know because you've developed that, in training, what that cue means. Dog should turn, look, see you. You walk off in the direction that you intend to go, and that dog should go to the front, just as if they were on a check cord, and you tapped them and sent them off in that direction. It's a beautiful thing to see a dog that knows that, and maybe you're running out in the middle of Montana, some beautiful country, and that dog is out there 300 yards on the far ridge, and you holler. That dog stops, looks, and you ride your horse off in the direction that you want to go, and he races to the front. That is a thing of beauty.
It's so fun too to understand this like I do now, because that's exactly what I've learned. And I made mistakes hunting with people before I knew this. And an example would be, we're out in this wide open area on the hillside, and that command is given by, I use George a lot, but George will tell me, don't stop. I want to walk the same way I'm walking right now. And the reason he's doing that is because he has the button. He's giving a very light tap on the neck collar, and that dog's job is to look. Which way is Dad going? I need to turn. And so if I'm standing there, the command is then to come all the way back. So that's why when I tell people now, I say, just follow me. Don't stop right now. Because they want to watch. They want to see what's going on. I was like, no. Just trust me. Keep going. Keep walking. We're going to the left. You need to go to the left with me. Don't talk to her. She knows. Exactly. She's already been given a silent command that you have no idea. Like you're driving that dog all the time. And I've had the pleasure of watching that. It's a work in progress for us, Daisy and I, but she'll be, the Sandhills in Nebraska, and she's 500 yards out, and I'm on a horse, and I tap, and she looks over, and pretty soon she's on the bluff in front of us. So it's very, very cool to see that foundation come through. Anyway, sorry, keep going.
No, I was going to say, I think first time dog handlers, they get enamored with the dog, and they have a tendency to I'm just going to follow the dog. So the dog will take me to the birds. Mm-hmm. And I encourage them. I said, you pick the course. The dog has to stay with you. Don't just get in the habit of just following the dog. And I give Bob a hard time. His saying, on his podcast is,
follow the dog, good things will rise.
Follow the dog. And I said, Bob, you may want to just put a disclaimer on that, don't just follow the dog. Yeah, the dog will take you there, but don't encourage people just to follow the dog, because the dog doesn't. If they know, well, he's always going to be right behind me. I don't need to pay attention to where he is or where he's going. He's always with me. You want to develop that especially with these young dogs, that they have to pay attention to where you're at and where you're going.
Waltons, what can I say? They are the ultimate online store for everything you need to prepare and cook your meat. From wild game to pork and beef, they've got you covered. Their tagline is everything but the meat, for a reason. A few weeks ago, they launched a new website to make your online shopping experience even easier. Waltons.com has over 5,000 items on their site in stock and ready to ship the same day. I went to their site the other day to purchase jerky seasoning for my son's big old gobbler. I found the seasoning I wanted, plus barbecue sauce, a new thermometer, steak seasonings, gloves, and a handful of other items. There's so much to choose from. It's just incredible. From grinders, mixers, stuffers, slicers, smokers, vacuum sealers, seasonings, and so much more. They also host their own podcast called Meatgistics and host live stream videos and chats to help you make the most of your cooking experience. Check them out at waltons.com. The Onyx Hunt app is one of the most valuable hunting tools that I take into the field every day. I talk about the Onyx Hunt app every week. That's simply because I use it on every hunt. Seriously, every hunt. Their app tells me everything that I need to know about the land that I want to hunt and the lands that we can all legally hunt on. If you've used it yourself, then you know that the Onyx app shows your location on planet Earth and clearly lays out the land boundaries. It also tells you information about the type of property you're on, like state-owned land, federal lands, and walk-in access properties. It's ideal for scouting before the hunt and during a hunt to help put together patterns. The app also has helpful features that show you the kind of crops that are in the fields, which obviously is a big deal for us upland bird hunters. These are just a few of the many tools Onyx Maps give you, and these maps can even be used in areas without cell coverage. From the palm of your hand, Onyx Maps always help you to know where you stand. One thing I've learned with mine is that she is just a princess around the house. She is so polite, so kind, so loving on everybody. And I tell them, I'm like, you guys have no idea.
Right.
Wait till she smells a pheasant. That is a completely different creature you have never seen before, because she just becomes something that, everything that we work on, in a controlled environment, she'll just stand the most beautiful point. That bird will flush and she'll stare at it and watch it fly. And they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. When she gets out there and she feels like she needs to get that bird and she has that distance 200-300 yards away, I have seen her many, many, many times, too many times to count, John, where she thinks I'm taking it into my own hands. And now she's flushing birds.
Oh, sure.
And that's an issue that I need to work through this summer.
Right.
Can you help me? Can you walk me through my next steps here? You've seen this before, right?
Sure. Yeah. At her age, she's had a number of birds. She's got all the experience. She knows where and how to find birds. And you're saying she's out there, and maybe she'll stand point for a little bit, and you're on your way. Mm-hmm. But she'll then finally break and blow up the birds, and have a great time chasing, right?
Yep. Or I think what I've noticed too, if I'm in eyesight of her, she thinks, all right, he can see me. I need to be obedient. But if she's over the hillside, all of a sudden, there goes the rooster.
Oh, sure. Yep.
And I can't tell you specifically what happened, but I can look at my GPS in my hand and say, my dog did that.
Right. Oh, yeah.
What happened there? Yeah. Why did she do that, John?
It's fun. It's fun.
And frustrating.
It's fun for her.
For her.
Yeah. So the next step is we call the breaking process. It's woe training, getting them to understand and installing a brake system on the dog. So woe has nothing to do with birds. It's something that, that command means one thing, and that's keep all 4 feet planted and don't move. And I use the Smith method, with the woe post and the half hitch around the flank, and then transfer that to the belly, and so
it's a point you're developing a point of contact.
Yep, the point of contact is on the belly, which is there's no confusion. That means one thing. That means stop. On the neck, it can be a number of different things, mean a number of things to the dog itself. So there's no confusion between, that stimulation on the belly means one thing to them. So when they're out of earshot, they're out there 300 yards. If you were to hit stim on the belly, you'd expect her to stop. Mm-hmm. So to get you past where what she's doing, bumping birds or pushing birds up, I would go to stop to flush training. When a bird's in the air, she's got to apply the brake. She's got to know that that's when you have to stop. So, in that situation, you see birds flying. You don't see her, but you're pretty sure she was in there. Mm-hmm. I'd nick her on the belly and expect when I come up over the rise, there she is standing. Mm-hmm. And she'll learn. She'll learn that once she establishes point, you'll never stimulate when the birds are still on the ground. But as soon as those birds go, you stop the chase and you get her standing.
Oh gosh, John, when I come over the hill, she's just standing there like a statue.
Right.
And I say, it's too late. You've already blown it. But she knows it. And she knows what she's doing, and it continues to happen. And I go back to certain things that I've already learned in my short training career. She has, because of this job that I do, and because of the dogs that I spend time in the field with, and the places I go, and the strangers I hunt with, if I want to hunt with her, she's going to be put in situations that aren't ideal. She's going to hunt with flushing dogs. And I've had multiple times where she's on beautiful lockdown points on birds in Montana or wherever it might be, and a flushing dog comes running right past her and flushes birds. She's still impressionable. Now she thinks, I need to go do that. And now that's what I spent the last half of last year, John, when I wasn't filming a TV show or on the road working, whenever I went out anywhere, she and it was all about, you do not get any reward. I never shot one bird that she flushed because I'm trying to, all the people that warned me were right. I learned so much about my mistakes, and I'm afraid that I'm already too far gone. Am I too far gone?
Yeah, you might have a little bit of a hole, and it's a real challenge for even the veteran dogs to be able to handle another dog, pushing past them and just blowing out birds.
I would imagine 90% of our listeners right now hunt with buddies,
right,
and their dogs, and their dog might not be a very well-trained dog. And now these bad habits, and they're nodding right now, like, yeah, my buddy John, his dog is out of control.
Right.
And now do I not hunt with my buddy John? Do I not go out with that dog? I want to enjoy the hunt with my friends. I want my dog to be out there. So then everyone's putting themselves in a really tough spot.
Yeah. It's all what you want. Some guys are satisfied with that as long as the bird's in the bag. I don't care if that dog pushed him up or not. As long as I was able to get shots at most of them. Yeah. But I encourage them to go take them to that next level, to get them steady, to stop to flush train, and it makes a big difference. It makes for, in my mind, a much more enjoyable experience when, say for instance, you're out on the prairie and those sharp tail, no fault of the dog, they just went, or at least the first 3 of them did.
Yeah. But
the dog stopped. The dog did what it was supposed to do. You get up, you ride up there, and pretty soon, there goes another one. And then you have shots at those. Mm-hmm. That dog learns that there could be one more. It could be one more, and they'll stand there knowing that as soon as you get out in front of them and start flushing, there's probably going there goes another one, and you get that shot opportunity. Had that dog not stopped, it'd have cleaned out the whole covey. Mm-hmm. Would have been gone by the time you got there. So. Yeah, that's the reason why most every pro trainer goes to North Dakota or South Dakota to work on those young broods of sharptail, because you get those multiple flushes and they'll never catch them. As far as developing a good wild bird dog, there's nothing better, than.
I've seen the light switch turn on. I've watched my dog, based on time spent in the Dakotas, on wild birds. And that's why everyone that says nothing will make a dog like a wild bird, I've seen it. I can agree with that. But we are in the middle of summer right now, and you do have pigeons, and you do have launchers. What are the important tools that somebody needs, and where can they go to get them, and where can you take those birds and launchers to bring your dog out and spend that time training right now?
Yeah, we during the nesting season, of course, the wildlife management areas and the public lands are off limits.
Yep.
But private land, if you can get access to it, is great. During when the nesting season, the band goes off in mid-July. A lot of times I'll start looking for wild birds again. Then when I know the broods are strong enough to be able to handle some pressure from a young dog. But yeah, pigeons. It's tough to watch a $5 pigeon fly away.
Yeah.
But a coop of homers, you can get a lot done.
And that's what you have?
Yeah.
How far do you travel from where you train and to where they come back to?
Mine aren't true racing homers. These are what was feral pigeons that I've had them home as much as 40 miles or 30 miles. And when I made the jump, there's some training grounds that are exactly 40 miles from my place. And I got them to the 30-mile mark, and most all of them were coming back. I did the next 10 miles, and I started losing half of them. But that's about the limit that I was able to do with those birds. Now, with true racing homers, the sky's the limit as far as the distance. They'll go, they have 500-mile races with those birds.
Where do you get them?
There's guys that will sell homers that are breeders, and the guys that are pigeon fanciers that are racing them. A lot of times they'll have their culls out of their breeding. That's a good place to go. You can find them. I'm sure it used to be Craigslist. Now there's Facebook Marketplace, and there's other
around the country
places to find them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just use feral pigeons that I've trapped, and you take the young birds and you can develop a homing coop with those young birds. They'll always fly back to where they first flew from. So if you can get your hands on young birds and keep them in a coop for a period of time until they're settled in, you can virtually, open up the gate and they'll always fly back to that same place.
Even after being handled that over and over and over, and stuffed in a trap. They just keep coming back for more.
Sometimes they get multiple times a day.
Yeah.
And it's as if they learn the routine. And they're invaluable. There's many things that you can get accomplished with a pigeon that you can't with a quail or a chucker or a pheasant. That they'll, you get that many more repetitions, and the dogs they can't catch them.
Is there a certain distance you aim to have that dog go on point? I mean, I know that different birds will allow you to get closer than others. Even a rooster pheasant is less likely to let a dog get 20 yards away from it than a hen. A hen, you can go 5 yards sometimes, but then, if the dog thinks, I can get 5 yards away, and then the rooster keeps flushing, do they just need to learn that on their own, or can you
They will. The birds will teach the dog what the birds will tolerate. Mm-hmm. And of course, pheasants are a whole different deal than it is to rough grouse or quail.
A pheasant will ruin a good pointer, won't it?
Well, a good pointer will figure out pheasants.
Yeah.
But it takes time.
Yeah. How much time is normal? What do you think that is? I mean, I suppose it's all in the amount of time out in the field and the amount of birds they see. Yeah. But when do you feel like, for some people that are like, my dog just won't get there, and now going into season 2, 4, 6, whatever it might be, is it per dog, or is there kind of just by season 3, you should see that dog mature?
Yeah, usually by 3 to 5 years old, they should be going into their prime as far as at that point. If they've been given the experience, when you turn them loose, they know where and how to find those birds out there and how to handle them if they've had the experience. But it takes experience with them. Repetitions, getting them in as many different situations. Say, for instance, rough grouse is always the one used. If a dog can handle rough grouse, they can handle any one of them out there. And But good rough grouse dogs only come with experience. There's very few that just come out of the box and they seem to just have it figured out how to handle those birds.
Do you run a bell when you're on your dogs, when you're rough
I do,
grouse hunting?
not always, but I do. I used to run just silent, just with the GPS tracking collars.
Yep.
But when I'm training, and I like to have a bell on the dog for the sheer fact that when I'm out flushing, I want to hear if that dog takes a step, when the birds go or what have you, to be able to get that correction in.
How do you correct that? Can I ask if you're out in the field and you hear that, like we've talked about it in the training, but you're out there hunting. What do you do during a hunt when you hear that dog take the step? You heard the flush. Your dog did that. You don't want that.
Yeah, no, it's stopping the chase, and it all depends on where the dog's at in their training. It may be that if I hear the bell go, and I know the dog is going with the birds, I always use when the birds flush, I'll always let the dog know. I'll holler whoop, and that's always my communication to the dog is birds up, apply the brakes, whether, the dog is already pointed or not. I'll let them whoop.
That's not to be confused. That's not to be confused with a whoa.
Right. But whoop means the same thing basically as whoa. It means stop.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'll also use it as I'm cautioning a dog. Also whoop, whoa, whoop. Just maybe when they're still moving, I'll apply the brakes with that command. Whoa to me is your stop. I'll let them know, whoa, I'll take it from here. The dog learns that, he isn't going anywhere until I come back to him and tap him and send him on or heel him out of there. So
as far as creep goes, Bob and I got into this conversation last week with Scott Franzen because Scott has a retriever. He's got labs, and so he's like, well, don't you kind of want your dog to want to get in there? And both Bob and I were like, no, we don't want any creep at all, not one step, because my dog has the ability to go out there at 200-300 yards. If my dog takes that one step and that ultimately causes the bird to flush, then the hunt is up. He's like, his dog is hunting within shotgun range almost exclusively. So if his dog gets a bird up, he can take the shot. That's the goal with the flushing dog versus the pointer. How do you, and I've always been told you can't stop a creep, because if you do that with your GPS and you apply the stop button, the dog is to expect that every time. So they have to learn that on their own.
Yeah, you never want to stimulate when the bird's still on the ground. Say, for instance, the dog is well off the bird and maybe the bird's moved off. When developing a young dog, you first want them to establish point when they hit that first good scent and stay put. As they mature and get older, depending on the bird, such as, if you're working pheasants, those birds are running. They'll run circles around a dog that just doesn't know how to relocate on a running bird. But as we train and work on a young dog, we want them to stay put. That we can let them, as they mature and learn how to relocate on a bird that's moved off. We can begin to let them do that. But you never want to, when that bird's still on the ground, stim, because you never want to have any negative association with the bird. You can create problems, pressure-related problems, if the dog seems to think that he got corrected and the bird somehow associated that correction with the bird itself. Mm-hmm. And
that's where the training handbook has to come in, because you're making split-second decisions on how you're communicating with your dog in those moments. And as a rookie trainer. I apologize for my dog. I almost wonder, Daisy, I don't know if everyone can hear this whining, but she's been whining this entire time. John, you've done a great job ignoring her, but I almost wonder if she ate something. She needs to go get rid of it. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think that could be what's going on right now. I don't want to end our conversation short, but I almost feel like she's doing her best to hold it in. I am not 100% sure on that. But where were we? Where were we, John?
Yeah, no. Like I said before, woe means it has nothing to do with birds themselves. It means one thing, and it means stop. And I see if you progress too quick, and that's a mistake that all of us, want to get there as quick as possible. But in the woe training and the breaking process, you want to make sure that dog is completely understanding the woe command before you begin using that in and around birds. The correction and how you're accomplishing that with the collar. You want them completely comfortable with that, and they understand it. There's no confusion. What I see happens at times where a dog doesn't quite grasp it completely, but we move, to the birds and begin using that on birds, and you're forced to correct when those birds go, and pretty soon the dog is anticipating that correction coming and makes an association between that negative stimulation with the bird itself. And what you see happen is a dog that will, as soon as you get out in front and begin flushing, they'll go down on point. They'll actually sit or lay down is a common, reaction. And that's, they call it pressure related. And that's where, I always tell people, let's make sure that the dog understands that command and where what that correction was for, and that's because they moved, and we don't develop an association. You can get over it at times, by just backing off and loosening up and start and going and taking a few steps backwards in their training, yeah, when you push too, especially with the younger dogs, everybody, you see so many guys, they got that dog broke before they're a year old. And I just caution with that. Let them have that first year, and let them be puppies. Let them have their fun, and do that break. And
let them run 1.3 miles away until you lose GPS signal of them.
If you gotta put that much pressure on them, as a puppy, you're gonna take something out of them. You're gonna take some of that style and some of that desire and some of that confidence out of them.
I've heard a lot of people. So she's such a bold dog, big running dog, and I couldn't stop her a few times that first year when she was 8 months old and we were out hunting, and she ran through the highest setting on my GPS. There was no stopping her until I lost signal of her, and then eventually found her again. Happened a few times. So there's people that have been in that situation, because a lot of them have reached out and said, been there, done that, don't worry, that's common, but that's where I wonder sometimes too about the dog itself. Each dog has that different drive, and so I'm always worried. I don't want to break her. I don't want to ruin this dog, but I also know that I need to put boundaries on. And so for me, it's trying to figure out what is the right amount, what's the right pressure, what's my expectation. At this point now, this will be her third season. My expectations of her are going to go up this year, and I'm going to hold her. Last year I started holding her accountable for those things, and unfortunately, I put her in position to. Yes, Daisy. I put her in the positions that I put her in, and now I'm paying the price a little bit. But also now there's certain things that she knows she's doing, And when you see that, hopefully I can get out in the field with you guys and spend a couple of your training runs, because I value your wisdom and what you'll see in her And, you know, a lot of people that I've been with, they're like, oh, you're too hard on her. You give her, you know, too much grief about it. But I also, I can, we're not a well, or how do I phrase it? I know what she's doing.
Right.
You know, somebody that isn't around her all the time.
Right.
Like, you know your dogs.
Yeah.
And if your dog pulls a quick one on you, you know it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know where they're at, you know, and what they can handle and what they can't. You know, you never want to push them to or correct them so hard that they'll shut down on you, or and each dog is a little bit different. You know, I would guess that she's, you know, that bird drive will get her past any amount of pressure that you were to put on her. She'll bounce right back.
Yeah, it's a good dog for me to make all these mistakes, because I can learn so much. And I already have, and I hope people have learned a little bit today about, you know, just working with birds, working with your dog. Gosh, I feel like there's just so much that we could dig into and understanding the brain. And it's amazing that we've already been talking for over an hour, John.
No.
In these conversations, they go so fast. You know, I hope that there's some nuggets in there that people can apply to their dogs right now. What's, you know, an important thing that someone has taught you, or that you try to leave people with when they come out and you spend time with their dog? What is the most important takeaway for you that you can now give to us?
I'm constantly encouraging them to be patient. Be patient. It'll come. You know, especially
Have you ever seen it
with
not
a young
come?
dog. Not really.
Okay.
No. Give it time, especially with the young dogs. They want to. I mean, they're seeing somebody else and comparing their pup to somebody else's pup, and every one of them's, you know, at a different level, depending on just, you know, a lot of times what kind of experience they'd had, and just, you know, the environment that they've been in. But no, I like I say, it's just be patient. You don't have to get there, you know, overnight. You sure, you know, people would like to have that, but you got to work at the dog's pace, you know, and the dog will let you know. But no, so yeah, it's be patient. It comes with experience. You know, let that puppy be a puppy, and that first year, I let them. You know, they pretty much can do no wrong. You know, they have to learn how and where to find birds and what these things are all about before putting that pressure on them of, you know, through the breaking process. But and then once, you know, you got to be consistent, you know, and if you're not, the dogs pick up on that in a hurry, where, you know, if they think they can, if they know they got by with it once, you know, they'll roll the dice and try it again, you know, every time.
Yeah. I've had people that, you know, have reached out when we've talked about training opportunities, and they say, I don't have the space. I don't know where to go. I respond to them and say, a lot of my training, morning before I go to the office, over lunch breaks, it's 15 minutes here, it's 10 minutes here, it's 15 minutes here, you know, just go with me, stop, you know, all of those things you can do in the small spaces too. I mean, using the command lead, using a lot of those tactics that you use in the field, just reaffirm it, you know, in my backyard, in my front yard, walking through the park, you know, a lot of those places. You don't have to be out in a 40-acre meadow that has nesting birds, wild birds, to train. And I think those 10-minute, 15 minutes here and there add up. And that, in turn, really can make a big difference.
Give a dog a job to do with everything that you know, get in a routine, such as I watched you. Daisy will not go through a doorway without your permission. And that's incredible. That's a great routine that you've developed. You know, develop a routine. You know, when you open the tailgate on the truck, they're not allowed just to come blasting out of the crate. They have to stand there, get geared up, and they can't jump off. Develop that routine. Before they're turned loose in the field, they always have to come to heel, stop, and then send them. It's getting the dog in the right mindset, where they have to focus on you. Their focus is on you.
It's almost like they punch in and they punch out. It's a job to them.
Yep.
As much as they love it.
Give them a job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every opportunity you get, whether it's, being able to snap your fingers and tell them and point to lay down in the house and stay put. Every opportunity you get to be able to let them know who's in charge and give them something that they need to be obedient with. And, people get their first puppy and they're told, there's really not much you need to do as far as formal training. And they take that as, I don't need to do anything with them. And I think that's, they can get themselves in trouble with, not taking those opportunities to give them something to focus on. And, keep it simple. But every time you're with a dog, every time you interact with a dog, you're training, whether you realize it or not. You're training.
I think she's trying to train us to say that it's time to wrap this one up, John.
Exactly.
It's been a pleasure. I could talk to you for hours. I hope we can do this again. And now that we're a block away, not even from each other.
Right. Stone's throw.
Yes. I'm excited for the hunting season coming up. I know you are too, and you're going to be out on the prairie before we know it. We kind of wrapped it up already. I think we'll just leave it at that. But thank you.
Oh, I appreciate it
a lot.
Thank you. It's been an honor, a pleasure.
I would also want to ask people that if they have specific questions, when I feel very fortunate that I can call you, John, or I can call some of these amazing dog trainers with decades of experience, based on the role that I have here to communicate. So with that, I want to know what questions you as a listener have for amazing people like John that are willing to give us a little bit of their time. So you can find us at any of our social media pages on Facebook. Just search The Flush TV. Same for Instagram. Same for Google search. You'll find The Flush TV. And there's always a contact form on any of those. Send us messages. You can find me as well. Just search Travis Frank. And if you look at any of my pictures, you'll probably know that I'm the outdoor Travis Frank and not some of the other ones that are out there. Oh. So anyway, I don't know. I don't search my own name, but I know that you can find me. And if you do, I want to hear from you because I want to know what questions you have. I save them. So when these opportunities come up and I get to interview somebody with a tremendous wealth of knowledge, your question will get asked. So I encourage you to do that. If you have guests that you want to hear on this show, any dog trainers, any specific topics, anything at all, please reach out to us so we can answer your questions. We are a community of bird hunters trying to help you, entertain you, teach you, and hopefully at the end of the day, end of the season, you come home with a happy dog and a few more birds in your bag. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Flush Podcast. I'm Travis Frank, reminding you to take the time to introduce someone new to the field.